Okay, all set?
All set.
Good?
All set.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Michael Adams. I'm Editor-in-Chief of Hospitality Design. And I first want to thank our sponsors, Walters, for continuing to sponsor this event, both here and in Las Vegas. And we're very appreciative to Walters and to Ken Schindler, who's right there. They're at booth 2000, so come and show your appreciation by meeting Ken in person and his colleague Gene. I'm very excited about this. When this kicks off our rechristening of this event as HD Americas, and so when we were looking for the best possible people to do this conversation, we thought immediately of the people from GrupoHabita. We first became, or at least I first became aware of them several years ago when in our HD Awards they won Best of Show for their Hotel Condesa DF. And we were so fascinated by them and by their work that we've kept in touch with them ever since. We've been very excited to see what they're going to come up with next. And we haven't been disappointed. So as you know, that I think GrupoHabita is made up of three brothers and Carlos Couturier in black over there. So we are delighted to have them and to talk about how they created this very fresh and innovative company and how they sustain the quality of their hotels, both in service and in design. So please welcome Moises, Misha, and Carlos Couturier. So guys, tell us how this all began. Take us back to the first person who met you, Carlos, in this family, and how it all started.
Well, the first person I met was Moises. We met in college. And we started as real estate developers. And we were doing office space, high-end office space in Mexico City. And then one of these tenants said, why don't you do the same but with a small hotel, which we don't find in this city. Most of these tenants were Europeans. So we finally built a hotel, 40 rooms, 38 rooms. And we were doing each of us other things. And finally, we are about to open, and we have no manager. We have no operator. And it was in late 99, beginning of 2000. And this was the first kind of like design hotel in Latin America, and a hotel of this size. And we had to do it ourselves. All of a sudden, we were interviewing chefs. And they said, like, oh, no, we don't want to serve breakfast, lunch, dinner, like, you're crazy. And then we were interviewing hotel managers, and they were, oh, this is too small. I remember we had a visit 1 month before we opened from the manager of the Four Seasons in Mexico City. And when he saw the property, he was like, this is either going to be a big failure or a big success. Luckily for us, it was a big success because we had to do it ourselves, but it worked. So from then on, we kind of like started doing our own management department. And we, besides developing the hotels, we were also managing them.
Okay. Well, that takes us to the first success, but let's go back a little. Moises, where were you in college, and did you have the same major, or what were you planning to do when you first entered college?
No, I was doing in business school, and Carlos was doing a master. So I was studying economics, and there we met. We started with these real estate small projects, and from there it came the opportunity to build Habita, our first hotel.
Mm-hmm. And what about the Misha family? Were they in real estate, or what was the?
No, actually they were not, but because this project was in a bigger size, so we needed more partners to make it happen. So the natural thing for me was to invite them as partners. So we formed GrupoHabita, and the four of us are developing since that day until now the same companies developing all the hotels.
And where in Mexico were you from?
From Mexico City.
Mexico City.
Yeah.
And Carlos, what was your background?
No, I come from Veracruz. In fact, I'm still a farmer. I have farms, citrus farms
Oh,
in
yeah.
Veracruz. Yes, I still, I still run them.
Were they
And,
family farms or?
They were family farms, and then
Yeah.
I got involved in the business. This is when I told you they were mainly in the banking business, the three brothers, and I came more from agriculture. And when I graduated, I started developing the trade side of these farms. So I opened markets in Europe, in the States, in Asia, for our products, for mainly limes and some grapefruits also. And that's why I moved to Mexico City in the first place.
And when you say casually, well, we decided to do a hotel, but that's a big step to go into a field you really didn't know anything about. How did you do the research? How did you study? Did you just travel? Did you just draw on your own instinct?
In my case, I was, because of this trading business, I was traveling, probably I was spending 200 days a year in hotels all over the world, but mainly in Europe. And I was always very curious to see how the Europeans managed to, I would like to stay in small hotels, and they were mainly family managed, and they were like in France, I would stay at hotels that had 24 rooms, or even less, and everything was perfect. The whole experience was kind of very interesting, and there was nothing like this in Mexico. Even in the world, this was in the early 90s, and I was always thinking, how come we don't do this in Mexico? Because labor is not that expensive. And every time I asked these people, they were like, well, yes, because, my husband is a chef, my daughter is doing the rooms, and it was a very, that sort of formula that I thought was pretty unique. And
Intimate.
this is how,
Intimate.
Intimate, yes. Because of that experience, traveling, working in different big cities in the world, I realized that there was this potential of doing the same in Latin America.
Mm-hmm. And you saw nothing there that compared, as far as you know, or very little?
Very little, in Mexico, no, it was very little. Either you had your big brands, and a lot of them were probably foreign brands doing hospitality in Mexico, and the rest was like this little probably bed and breakfast but there was the experience in between, that niche where you had a small hotel with full services was non-existent.
Yeah.
Not only in Mexico, I think it was all over Latin America.
Right. And did all the brothers agree that this was a great idea, or were some of you skeptical?
Since the first moment.
Really?
Yeah, we thought I lived before in New York for a couple of years as a banker, and when I came back to Mexico City in the mid-90s or so, there was nothing like that in Mexico. So yeah, we all agreed that was a good idea to do.
And the first hotel was? Habita.
In Mexico City.
If that had been a failure, would you have gone on?
No,
Was your
of course
passion
not.
strong enough? No,
No.
that was
At the time in Mexico, we didn't have financing. This was all equity, and it was kind of like we conceived this project in '94, and before we went into Europe, first, we need to put up the money, but the real struggle was to get the authorities in Mexico, the local authorities, to understand what we wanted to do, because this was non-existent. We would come to them and say, we want to do 40 rooms. They were like, what? Hotels have 250 rooms. There was even a kind of like a legal sort of no man's land because of the fact that no one had done this sort of hotel. They wanted the permits we needed a permit for the bar, a permit for the restaurant, a permit for the rooms, because they couldn't do it together.
And we'll get to this again later. And the design component is so strong in your hotels. Did you know from the outset that you wanted these to be daring and cutting edge in terms of design?
Yes, of course, yeah. I remember we did a contest for our first hotel, and we had 5 architects. most of them were quite traditional, and we knew we wanted to be, at the time, Mexico City, people would say like, well, how come you live there? You know, it's like, it's polluted, it's chaotic, it's not that safe. And we wanted to show the world that the city had changed, and that we wanted to build kind of like an oasis in such a chaotic city. And so we knew we wanted it to be minimalist, we wanted it to feel global. It was about the future of Mexico, not about the past. And that's what we built.
And where does that instinct come from in terms of your backgrounds?
In my case, I think it has to do with nature. I mean, I grew up in that sort of environment, what you see there in the photo. So I grew up in farms, and when I moved to Mexico City, I was missing that experience. And Moises?
Yeah. Since we started to develop Habita, the first hotel, one of the contestants was Enrique Norten, the architect. So when we saw the model that he brought us, it was an instant winner. He would set a pool on the rooftop, and at that time there were no rooftops anywhere. So in some way, we did the rooftop scene as a bar, very popular since 15 years ago. So yeah, from there on, design for sure has been a very important component. We, even for that project, won a really nice award that it's called Good Design is Good Business. And it's like really big with in architecture or so. So yeah, we're very focused on the design component of each project.
But no formal design training for any of you, or?
Not at all, but I think what really helped is that Moisés' family, his father is a big contemporary art collector, and they had already this the sensitivity for, and that helped a lot while taking the decisions.
Right, right. We'll talk about, the four of you are partners, talk about the division of responsibilities, if there is one, or do you all kind of do everything?
No, there is. If not,
I know Rafael does marketing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he does marketing, and he does all the communication for the company. Carlos is responsible for all development, so he said to choose the architect's firm, the interior designer, the graphic designer, the whole concept of the project, what's the menu is gonna be, what's the feel of the hotel, and all of the pre-opening stuff. Then I see operations of all the hotels, and my younger brother Jaime. That's, I think, the only one you have not met. He does all the administrative stuff, human resources, financing, and so on. So yes, we're like, everyone is. If not, it would have been a disaster. No? So we respect each other with its line of business.
Are there wives and children and cousins in the mix anywhere?
Well, it's going to start with your kids.
Children, probably with my children.
Yeah.
One is 18 and he wants to go to to a hotel business school, so probably.
That's nice.
But better not. I mean, it's just better to.
You've been called the creative force, Carlos. What does that mean? Is that accurate?
Well, it's a teamwork, because I come up with ideas, but of course they feed me back a lot, and they say like this. Sometimes you just come up with an idea that later seems like crazy, but at the time it seems like a perfect one. And I think what is great with my partners is that they kind of like ground these ideas, and they say like, well, this can fly. This won't be. They're also very business oriented, so which is good. They make sure that the numbers also work, which is not easy when you're building hotels that have 30 rooms.
Did I see you nod when I mentioned he was a creative force?
No, yes, of course.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that having a good teamwork.
Yeah.
So it's nice for Carlos has a great taste, a good eye to choose designers, and so far we've been working in some of these projects with very young people that turn out to be now super good talent.
Yeah, yeah. You've created a lot of stars, it seems, which must be gratifying.
They weren't stars when we.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
no.
yeah.
I think when we opened our first hotel, mainly the international press, they were like a design hotel from Mexico City. Well, that can't happen, you know. Mexicans are not, they're not able to do that probably. So we were kind of like ignored for the first hotel, even though it was a really nice piece of architecture and interior design, they didn't kind of like pay attention because this was in Mexico. Then we opened our second hotel in Playa del Carmen, very small, 15 rooms, and Playa del Carmen was like a small fisherman's town, dirt roads, there was nothing really. And all of a sudden we're getting all this big press all over, you know, we were getting covers in London, and I think it was because since they ignored the first hotel, then the second one got like, oh, these guys can repeat the formula where, you know, there is a thread in it, you know, it's not the same product, but it works. And this is when we gained some confidence and said, okay, we are ready to probably do things that are where we can involve designers that are not only based in Mexico, but we can kind of like risk it and go abroad and bring some talent to do something in Mexico.
And why Playa del Carmen? Why did you think that would work if it was an unlikely destination?
Because for that reason, we at that moment our instinct was let's go to an unexpected sort of destinations where we have this philosophy that we don't only build hotels, but we also kind of like we like to build the work with the surroundings of the hotel. The location is very important, and we want our hotel to be like the detonator for a sort of and a specific sort of development around the hotel.
Right.
So we like to go to new neighborhoods as well. You know, we don't go to the obvious destination.
You've said that the Mexican hotel market treated you with suspicion, and you've described it as not a particularly adventurous environment. What is it like now, and do you think you've had, I assume you think it's improved?
Well, completely, yes. It has changed completely.
And how much credit do you get for that, do you think? Do you think you've raised the bar?
Well, I think we have, but our products are always very innovative, and I think it's more than getting credit. I think the fact that we do small projects and we take that risk, it's probably inspirational for people that have, you know, we always get these emails where I live in this small city and I think I could do something amazing, and you know, the making a dream come true. I think that's where we get the credit for some people, not only in Mexico, because I think now we're known more globally, and someone in Chile says like, I'm going to build, you know, a small hotel in the middle of nowhere, and then, you know, you see this hotel all over the press, and especially in Latin America, I think we made a difference not only for Mexico, but for in Latin America, for people to realize that you could have this exposure coming from our region with a small project, and it's not money intense, it's more like passion intense.
We started also last year with a hostel, with our first hostel project in Mexico City, and I think that there will start a trend in Latin America to start to build this type of projects. That's the one that you were
seeing before, the image.
Yeah. What made you venture into the hostel?
It was a pure decision of the
space
itself.
Yeah.
We couldn't make hotel rooms in that space. It's a 17th century building, so it was very difficult to modify or so, and it had poor light and a very difficult space to work. So we thought it was a good idea to have young travelers coming in for $20 a bed.
Wow.
So
And also through instinct, because every time we were like, as we were building the hotel or conceiving the hotel, this was in the old part of Mexico City, and no one had built probably a new hotel in the area in probably 50 years. These were it was all about old hotels, and we saw that there was a lot of backpackers. Always, when we saw foreigners, there was these were travelers that would take the risk of staying downtown and feeling the essence of downtown Mexico City. And we saw that all the time. These were Scandinavians or Australians staying in downtown Mexico City in hostels. And we realized that there was a market for it. And this was something that had not been developed as a sort of more of a design sort of experience, but in hostels.
Will there be more, do you think, or only if the space is right?
We hope so, because I
These
think
have been successful for you?
it is, and I think it's also, our next project in the States has a hostel component in it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Can you tell us where?
Yeah, this is in Chicago.
Ah, interesting. And what stage is it now?
It's an existing building from 1929. And
Downtown?
No, it's in Bucktown.
Excellent. Well, that leads me then to your first venture outside of Mexico, which was New York City, yes?
Yes.
Tell us about that. That's got to be jumping into the deep water to go into New York.
It was, yes.
Yeah, and what was that experience like?
Well, it was very challenging. New York is very competitive. So since day one, we thought, like, let's keep it true to ourselves. Let's not try to do something that like someone has done before. So even when we chose the location, it was, again, we did exactly the same formula or follow the same principles that we were using for Mexico. So it's not an obvious location. It's about high-end architecture. It's about the human experience. And mainly what we wanted is, it's about building a community around your hotel. So we knew the art community pretty well from our previous hotels in Mexico. And we thought this was, it was perfect to do something in West Chelsea, where there were all these galleries, and we knew most of the people, but there was not a hotel that had that identity. And also to make it a bit Latin, to make it about us. So it's kind of like what Latin Americans would like for the future, like
right.
not looking back, but looking forward. Right. But it's still about our roots, So when you enter there, the music is very kind of like almost bossa nova everywhere. The drinks are Mexicans. The food is French, but with a touch of a Latin sort of component. And we made it, we had to have that identity, that it was us, not just another hotel in New York. Yeah. Even the name says this. It's Hotel Americano.
Yeah. You said that, somewhere that you thought the time was right. Did you mean the time was right to go to New York, or the time was right to leave Mexico, or the time was right for New York to have your hotels? Does that make any sense?
You want to answer that, Moises?
I forget which one of you said it.
Well, in an interview, I said, I think the time was right because we had done already, at the time, 3 hotels in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. We had done a hotel in a major city outside of Mexico City, which was Monterrey. And New York was kind of like a mega city close to home. So it was either New York or LA that it was kind of like a natural destination for us. And we've always liked New York, and we had the chance to find all these parts and put them together. It was Chelsea, it was New York, it was the right timing as well in terms of getting financing, which was important. Yeah. And all of that happened at once, all at once.
Were you all in agreement? Was there somebody in the quartet who said, "Nah, I don't know about New York"? It's a big step.
No, I don't
No.
think like no one would disagree.
You gotta
New
be
York
bold.
is
You
very
gotta jump
exciting.
in, yeah.
Was like,
Were there any-
if you can make it there, as Sinatra
Were
said,
were there any times when you thought, any point of the development of that hotel when you thought,
Failure?
why did we do this?
Yeah, of course. Like every week, we're
Yeah.
like, why here? We have already our followers in Mexico, and why come? But it's that challenge that makes it very exciting. It was like almost every week, mainly because we're very used to do, and I think this is very important for the audience. We came with this mentality of custom made whatever, like we want custom made furniture, custom made closets, and curtains. Like it's very easy to do that in Mexico, but in America it was not. It was difficult to convince people to do custom made things. And the other thing, to match the budget, which we learned a lot from this hotel, like how to match the budget. We ended up doing this hotel with only a 1% over the budget, which is, it was a big challenge for this hotel. So using that, adapting to our new environment was probably the hardest part. But now that we did it, we're ready to probably keep doing the formula in other cities in America.
Could you give us a hint at what ones you have your eye on?
In America?
Yeah.
I mean, well, we're
You
doing
said maybe Chicago,
Chicago, but we're looking in LA. Again, not in your obvious, we're not a Beverly Hills or West Hollywood sort of hotel experience. We're looking into districts that are more where we can make the difference, and this is where we're looking. This is the one we're about to open in a month in Puerto Escondido. The images that you see, this is our latest project in Mexico on the beach.
What parts of Latin America do you see ripe for development? Are you interested in going in other places in Latin America?
We really want to focus in North America. There are great cities in South America, but I mean, we decided to come to North America, and it's important to stay focused geographically. We've had requests to do hotels in the Middle East or in Europe or in South America. A lot of requests came from South America at the time. But I mean, when you think of Buenos Aires, it's a 12-hour flight from Mexico City. So New York is 4 hours. So it was, for us, where Mexico is North America. So we decided to first develop our branding or our company in America. And then from there, once we do that, which will take a big efforts and time, then we will be ready to go to other destinations.
Is there a way of describing what you look for when you are looking for a designer for a hotel? Do you sometimes go to that designer whose work you like and say, would you be interested in working for us? Or do you audition several, or is there a formula?
You want me to answer that, Moises?
Yeah.
Many here would like to know.
Well, that's a very important part, because we always we don't like to work with the same designers, which is rare, because most people would say like, why, you found the formula, just keep repeating it. We're kind of like an anti-franchise sort of hotel developers or managers. We always like to bring something new to the scene. So that is a complicated part. Sometimes we use only local, very young architects or interior designers from Mexico City. Sometimes we go like, right now, the next project we're doing, which is in Guadalajara in Mexico, the designers come from, it's Dimore Studio from Milan. So I think once we managed to create this relationship with, working with someone that probably is either based in, let's say, Europe or in New York, and developing a hotel on the beach in Mexico, we found the formula. We realized we could do it. Choosing the designer is really tough, because sometimes I've interviewed like probably 16 designers when in Paris, for example, for Hotel Americano, and it's not that I just give them 30 minutes. I like to go to their office, probably have lunch or dinner with them. I want to learn more about their personalities. So I give them at least 3 hours. So it's like the full morning and then the full afternoon. So it's like if when you're interviewing 16 designers, it takes 2 weeks. But once you get to know them, like when we did the first research, we chose one. But then, once you've done it, you know which could be the good one for your next project.
Right. And then do you all meet them, or is this your province?
I just start, but then let's say the finalists, it's usually either Moises that will also have he will give me the feedback, and then we say this is, because a designer might be good for a city, for an urban project, but he might not be good for, let's say the guy that did Hotel Americano, which is kind of, it has an industrial sort of soul. That wouldn't work on the beach. That would be using so many metals, and so when we go to a beach hotel, you want to, it's not for everyone. It's like you want to use fabrics that will age correctly. You don't want to use metals because they rust. There are so many things. Maintenance and aging. It's a very important aspect of when building a hotel.
Question that a lot of people answer differently, but how do you define luxury these days? What is luxury for you?
Simplicity, making sure that it's something that that's the toughest part when designing a hotel, or you can have luxury in a palapa in Oaxaca on the beach, and it's still luxurious, and you can be, you can find it in, I think it's that simple sort of experience where the toughest part when working with the architects or the interior designers is cleaning the project. It's just saying this is, it's not about only budget, it's about the fact that, like, I don't know how many times I've stayed in hotels where if I need to go, it's dark in the room, and just to turn on the lights, it's like complicated, and then bumping into things when you need to go to the toilet, and just keeping it simple, like a perfect shower, the pressure should be good, a bed that is comfortable, and just that simplicity is very rare to find in many hotels.
It's interesting, that's what Ian Schrager says as well right now, and in contrast to his earlier hotels, he said, I believe simplicity is the key word these days in design.
I didn't know that. So it's probably then luxury is also not only simplicity, but I have to say something else because I didn't know Ian had said that. But I think simplicity is important, but then the luxury is in the essence of things, because it's also related to simplicity, but it's just stripping down, you say, like taking things away and just making sure that when someone comes to our hotels, they find the essence of the product, and that has to do with the location. It has to do with the right interior design, the right architecture, the right staff, because it's very important.
Service.
Service, yeah.
Service.
Nowadays, it's as important or more important than design. So you have to keep it really balanced.
Guests are expecting more.
Of course.
Yes, definitely. It used to be like when we were, more like the market. Now the market is saturated with good design and good projects. So the difference is the human resources. You have to make sure that we always tell our staff, the first thing when we hire someone is like they have to smile. We're in the hospitality industry. You don't want to get to the front desk and they hate their jobs. You have to make sure that that you get a big smile from everyone in the team, the server. These are things that might be obvious, but then all of a sudden you check into a hotel, you go like, oh, you think it's obvious, but for a lot of people it's not.
Yeah.
Especially at 2 a.m. after you've been on a transatlantic flight and you get to a hotel and they almost like, oh, you're like, I'm more tired than you are. You go like, wow, you need a smile. You need, yeah. And this is what, from our culture, it's, I think we've learned that from, Mexico has that, where when I don't know how many people have been to Mexico, but when you go, as soon as you get there at the airport, you realize that there is always a smile and they're happy to have you. So this is what we kind of like grab as a signature for our hotels.
All right, on that note, let's open up for questions. And yes, Gene. Do we have is there a mic anywhere, a handheld mic we could use? Can you just shout it out? And
Kathy Stein with Walters. When you said you're having going to start a hotel or open a hotel in Southern California, which is where I live, and you said not the obvious, not Beverly Hills or West Hollywood, where would that be exactly, Carlos?
I mean, we've been doing some research. We like the Arts District, downtown. To us, that's the obvious. There is no hotel. There is already kind of like a community building up. It's kind of cosmopolitan. You see artists around, some hipsters also, but we're not after them. But we're more. We want our clients to be smart people, you know. And it's easy to say, but you don't want to come into a lobby and just it's like, oh, these people are. You were here just to have drinks and it's fun. It's more. Hotels have become like kind of like social hubs and social experiences where people stay in a hotel if you do the right thing, it's because you know you're going to meet the right people. There's going to be people that are staying in the room next to you are exactly the kind of like on your community. You don't want to go to a hotel where you want to sleep and in the next room someone is partying until 4 a.m. So this is what is very difficult to achieve nowadays, to put this community together.
yes, ma'am. Could you hold for the microphone? Thanks. Okay, but I'm not sure everybody else can hear you. That's the only problem. No, here's one.
In the different areas where you go, do you base the price point and the diamonds or stars differently, or do you remain the same everywhere you go?
Well, every hotel has a market price of its competitors in that market, but a philosophy that we pursue very actively is that of a best value thing. No, we are not aiming for the very high-end product that it's $500, $700, but we don't all do the very inexpensive, less than 100 stuff. So we're like on a mid-range type of projects. Of course, a room at Americano in New York would have an average rate of twice its equivalent in Mexico City.
Okay. And secondly to that, I think that where the market has evolved to, we're talking like Ian Schrager said the same thing about simplicity. I think high-end markets, and please tell me if you don't see it this way, but higher economy, people that can afford to stay at the high end, $700 a night, are finding in traveling, they're liking the experience and doing something that's safe, of course, but in a more moderate price with more simple pleasures, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's even a trend. We were reading today in the New York Times that now business travelers are willing to stay at a hostel during the weekdays for their business trips. Mm-hmm. So that says a lot.
Yes, sir, right behind. Just you can pass it behind.
As a designer, I have the privilege of following you guys, and you're amazing, by the way. Congratulations. I mean,
Could you hold it back for a little?
Sure.
Thanks.
You've been always ahead of the game. I mean, when you were minimalist, when nobody was. You were urban chic when nobody was. You were beach design hotel when nobody was. So congratulations on that. Having said that, probably the weakest product that I feel out of your portfolio is Hotel Americano. There was a challenge there. Have you learned from there? And probably in Chicago, you will, I don't know, apply that lesson and improve the service a little bit? I mean, it's my opinion, by the way.
No, very welcome.
But I stay at many of your hotels.
Of course, coming to one thing that you have in New York that it's tough to deal with is like everyone's an actor or a future Brad Pitt or Angelina, or so your staff rotates a lot. It's just the same with your chef, and that's been a big task for us to keep a staff that stays. We've been open for 2 years, so that's a challenge on a daily basis. For that reason, when you open, your doorman is, but then all of a sudden says, "Oh, I'm going to be on Broadway, so I'm leaving tomorrow." Like, what? I mean, you were trained for 3 months. Well, I don't care. This doesn't happen in Mexico City as often, and or your best server all of a sudden is, "Oh, Daniel was here. Now I'm moving to Upper East Side, and I'm going to be working at Bullitt." Okay, good for you, but I mean, so it's not. We've learned that also. The competition is more aggressive. It's not like coming from Latin America, you kind of like respect each other more. In New York, it's like you are there. It's like it's a jungle. It's people. It's really so you have to really start taking care of your staff, your product, and your identity, because you see people just coming just to grab your identity. I remember when we first opened and we had a very important executive from a big brand checking in. It was like, "Oh, wow, this guy is here." He checked in for 30 minutes, looked at the room, took photos, and left, And then you see a year later that some of your principals are in another property, and it just, we love that. I mean, it's like if that happens to you, it means they are there for a reason. You're doing something right. And but still, it's very competitive, and we're learning from that. Many times we keep things now to ourselves, even when we're doing a speech like this, because you don't know what's going to happen.
There's someone, yes, ma'am, right there. Can you pass the mic to her, please?
Good morning. I'm Patty from American Art Resources. My question is, how do you see artwork in your hotels, and how do you go about vetting the artists that you work with in different markets, different segments of the countries that you're building in?
Artwork in hotels.
Yeah.
He's the expert.
Well, we started it since our first project. We invited an artist to have a work of him done in situ for the place. We thought it was right at that time. So what we have been doing is very very natural in projects that we feel that there's a need for art. We incorporate art. In others, as Americano, our hotel in New York, we felt like the art community was so strong all around us that we kept the hotels with no art at all. So it became a little bit of a neutral ground for artists, collectors, and galleries around us. But yeah, we have many hotels. Boca Chica has a really nice piece by Gonzalo Lebrija. For Condesa de EF, we thought that the interior design was so rich that we had an artist make an artwork outside the hotel. So it's an old car parked just at the entrance that it become very recognizable. So yeah, we incorporate art, but more of a personal thing. Like we take it very intuitive. We could, for Boca Chica, we bought the piece that it's at the restaurant here in Art Basel, Miami. So we thought it was perfect for that place.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. As a follow-up to the gentleman's question here, being from Chicago, have my own design studio, and I've lived in Bucktown, I'm curious, what challenges have you found going into that area in Chicago?
Again, we look at several properties in Chicago, and most of them were obvious. Sorry, most of them were kind of like obvious destinations. And when we look at this building in Bucktown, it had lots of character. But what we like about the neighborhood is it's going to be the first hotel in the area, but also there are several communities that interact in that specific cross point. And this is the challenge, being able to service a community that is almost high-end now, when you go north, and then you walk one block south, and it's like pretty gritty, and you're there at 2 a.m., and it's like rough. So this is what makes it very interesting, and this is where I was saying it's a social experiment, and the design has to go with that. So what we like to do in our hotels, we like to keep them very democratic. No one would ever ask you at our properties, like, show me your ID, or make a line, or are you on the lease, which is like in New York, it's very common. Like, if you're not on the lease, you're not allowed here or there. If we do it right, people will know that this is for them. This is where they belong. And this is probably the toughest part. And in Chicago, what we like a lot about Chicago is like, it's an all-American city that I think you'll read so much about Chicago in the next 2 or 3 years, because there's so many things coming up in Chicago, but it's almost like all of a sudden everyone realized that the city had so much to offer, and it's a bit like the formula of Mexico City, where before Chicago, it's so cold, it's a windy city. Who wants to go there in February? And all of a sudden it's like, I do. Why? Because winter is great, it's exotic for me, or because it's an all-American experience is very appealing. And the location is that. It's about Chicago, but the Chicago that is up and coming.
Anyone else? Oh, yes.
Hi, I'm Palmira Chavez. I'm from Mexico. Now we are working in some projects. I think that something that's very nice that you are also the owners, because in your case you know all the complexity of the project. But we are working with some clients, and some of them it's their first hotel, and they want to do something, but they don't really know what they want to do. So we keep on showing them how to build the experience. But it's very difficult because we are so aware of all the details, the music, the service, the art, how people has to feel. So do you, in your case, being the owners, how could you recommend the designers to show the owner the big complexity of building a restaurant or a hotel, but to offering the whole experience?
I think the secret of a successful project is a good combination of client and designer, because it's very often that you see a great designer but with a bad client, and the overall product it's not good at all, or the other way around. No? So when you have this feedback and a good communication between the designer and the client, I think the project gains a lot, and it's on its way to be a nice and successful.
It's like a marriage. It's like, if you don't want to have lunch with your client or dinner, and if you don't want to if you feel like this is only about business, it's going to be tough. I mean, you work a lot with your architect or your designers. You spend a lot of time with them. You have to find the things that you like about them and enhance that. You know, you have to, as a designer, you have to tell your client, I mean, this is what I like about you, but this I don't. I think this is a bad idea, and you have to stick to your principles. You know, I've had meetings with designers that say, I can do it all. And you go, oh, I'm very skeptical of that. But then I've also had meetings with designers that said, I only do this, and it's either that or the door is there and you can leave. So you have to, it's in the middle. You know, it's like, there might be a designer that has its own idea of what it should be, but he has to be open to what we think with our experience the hotel should look like, and the other way around. When I meet people, sometimes I've met these designers, they're like, I'll do exactly what you asked me to, and I look at their portfolio, and they've just done all sorts of things. It's very risky because you don't know, like, are they really going to add something to the project, or they're just going to, you know, just put your ideas on a paper. So it's a balance. It has to be a balance always.
Thank you.
Yes, well, I think one more, and then we might have to wrap up.
Hi, I'm from California, interior designer. In your initial stage of hiring designers, what do you see, and how do you see the designer from what they are now to what they could become, or what they could do for your future project? Because not everybody has that signature style. Some of us, you know, depending on the market and everything, do different projects within a company, very different styles sometimes. So how do you pass that and sort out the design, you know, identify the designers that you are looking for, and especially for the designers who are not necessarily from hospitality background?
I have many friends that are in the film industry, and I always compare, like, when we're doing that, it's like a casting, like when how do you choose your director, how do you choose your actress, your protagonist? It's exactly the same process. You know, first there has to be technique. You cannot hire someone that has not been trained. There are so many designers nowadays that, you know, they just say, like, you know, I never went to school, I just have great ideas. Well, it's great. There's nothing wrong with that, because some people do have that, and then they change in life, they decide they want to do something else. But training is very important. The technical side of it, you want your desk to be perfect when it arrives, and it goes exactly in the place that someone measure, and
at least for hotel design.
Yeah, for hotel design is very important. I mean, I'm talking about hotel design. If it's a residence, but for hotels, technique is very important. They need to know about lighting. They need to know. Hotels are a very complex thing. Someone said only hospitals are more complicated, but hospitals, they can look awful, and you still check in. But with hotels, I mean, it's different, because it's complicated, but they still have to look at everyone. It's a critical. Oh, I like this. No, I don't like that. So they have to know about that, and then they have to understand that this is a very human experience. When you check in at a hotel, you're looking for a human experience. So the lighting has to be right, the intensity of the light, the soundproof has to be right. So you go to a restaurant, you say, like, oh, the food is great, the service is great, but I can stand, it's noisy. I can have a proper conversation. And those are technical aspects and we learn that through the process of making mistakes. You make mistakes. So my advice would be, if it's someone that is a young designer, I would say grab whatever you can, learn. When someone comes to you and says, would you do a hotel? Yes, I would. It doesn't matter if it's probably the bad client, but then you learn. And from there you say, like, I've learned, and I need to do it better. And this was our process. You become better through the making of things.
Yes, one more. Yes, sir. I would like to know more about that too. I have to say that one. Describe the.
Can we have,
which
can
one?
we have the image?
Bring up Endemico on the loop?
It's backwards a little bit.
It won a special judges award for as you know, from our panel. And we were crazy about that project. It was made one of the best covers we've ever had. But it also looks like it was a crazy project. And yeah, there you go.
It's a very talented architect from Tijuana. Again, when we look for a designer, when we go to a new destination, first we look for local talent. Like this is what we're doing in Chicago. First we interview people that know the city. Then if we realize that we need something because probably the local community needs something more exciting, then we start bringing, probably say, okay, why don't we bring something from outside? In the case of Endemico, the architect was very talented. He was local. He was just a one-hour drive from the site. It's a vast property because it's vineyards. And first, the idea for him was to put, it was probably easier even for operations to put one unit next to the other. But that would have been, that's, we said like, no way, this has to be about being outdoors, almost like you went camping, a luxury camping experience. And so we started playing with different positions and building something that felt, again, unique, that belonged to the surroundings. These are almost spots that were built outside. We brought them in cranes and we placed them almost like they can leave tomorrow. Almost like, when you come from Mars and you land, but then you can take off. This was the whole principle because the landscape is incredible and we didn't want to touch it. It was about preservation. And it's a very tough project in terms of operations because, there is no room service, there are no phone lines, so we had to develop a system with walkie-talkies. So as you check in, they give you a walkie-talkie, then when you're in the room, you have to call if you forget something. I mean, if it's at night, we give you a flashlight, and there are snakes, so probably you have to be careful. We tell you all these, but it's still, it's part of the experience, and it's very limited services, but most of all, it's a very photogenic experience. When you look at a place like this, you feel like, I want to go. It was a tough project. It took us 5 years to build this hotel. And also because of mainly the environment, making sure that with authorities that it was something that really was very respectful of the environment.
Okay, one more question from us, for both of you. You got into this business sort of as newcomers. You've made a success. I suspect the financial rewards are adequate. What, though, really keeps you in it? What makes you happy about it?
I think passion more than anything, no? Because economics, as you know, in the hospitality business are cycles, no? You have a good cycle and then a bad cycle and then again or so. But if you love what you do, and I think that's the drive to keep on going.
And you have to have a passion because it's challenging. Yeah.
Of
course.
Yeah. You have to have a passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, like having a team of almost 700 people or so, it's really a challenge on a day-to-day basis to deal with that, no? So either you love what you do or you are in the wrong...
My son says like, oh, Dad, I want to be a hotelier because you're always sipping champagne and going to great parties. But he doesn't understand that. I mean, you have to also make sure that you're there for breakfast, and then it's not as simple as that. It's very complicated. And another friend of mine said like, oh, when I retire, I'm going to be like you. I'm going to build these small hotels and take it easy. Okay, good luck.
Little do they know. Well, first of all, thanks again to Walters, Ken, and Kathy. Thanks so much for your support. And to you guys, thanks for being here, and thanks for keeping the industry standards so high. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for coming as well.